Hello, and there's tons of attention which is being paid to this whole idea about interdisciplinary pedagogy because of what the national education policy is calling out as let there be no silos between subjects and merge them all together. And we believe at Shikshangan that the one interesting and intelligent way of doing this is by conducting PBL, which is project-based learning. So we're starting a new series on interdisciplinary pedagogy through project-based learning, and this is an introductory episode for you. So what is project-based learning is what we need to understand first, really. It has structured activities which are designed by the teacher. It kind of helps students solve some problems which are the kind of problems they will encounter in life and not necessarily the kind of problems they solve in school, in math, and so on. It of course has to be curriculum based and very close to the life of the child. It has to be interdisciplinary, that is the whole idea of doing this series for you. And it has to be authentic, like I said, connected to the real life of the child. That's the theme that you might take for the project. The end result of PBL, which is a short of project-based learning, where we are going to use interdisciplinary pedagogy, has to always be a product, either a journal or a research paper or something that the students make. Students gather a lot of information while they are engaged in the project explorations, and because of this gathering of information, what happens is that they derive a lot of knowledge. Even though it's syllabus-based, they go much beyond that. This collection of knowledge also then demands analysis, so they develop higher order thinking skills, as you can see. And with a lot of analysis and generation of a lot of ideas, they also learn to synthesize in order to come up with the best idea to continue with their project. PBL and interdisciplinary approach also encourages a lot of collaboration between students, which automatically means that it should not be done solitarily by one single student, but you need to create groups which will engage in this kind of a theme project. And there is a lot of space of reflection and metacognition as well as they go along. Because of this metacognition, it actually encourages much deeper learning than what a regular classroom transaction with single subjects might do. And the other buzzword today, which is deserving and getting a lot of attention, is the development of 21st century skills. We know the 4 C's, and therefore through project-based learning, you will develop communication, critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, as well as content mastery, because they would be exploring something so much more deeper than they would in a teacher-driven class. What are some of the attributes of project-based learning? One of the things is that project-based learning is pedagogical. It's very different from doing a project, which my next slide will talk about. And therefore, it has to be of much, much longer duration, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, and therefore maybe you can do 1 or 2 projects in this manner in a given academic year. The second thing about PBL is that it needs to be very exploratory in nature. What that means is children are given some themes, but they explore by themselves, and this actually builds higher order thinking skills. Now, these explorations should also be connected to the real life, and which is what makes PBL very, very authentic. So it has to be connected to the syllabus, but at the same time, it also needs to be connected to the life of the child. The next thing that we need to think about in terms of a characteristic of PBL is that it needs to integrate many subjects. But I must say that it should be done as naturally as possible. Don't try to force fit. So don't begin with, oh, these are the kind of all the subjects that I have. Now somehow I need to fit this in this theme of PBL. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is think about a theme and see what subjects does it lend itself to, as my subsequent episodes are going to show you with several exemplars. So try to see that you can bring in as many subjects as possible, but as naturally as possible. Whether it is music, history, geography, biology, mathematics, whatever you can bring in when you are exploring one single theme, the unit of your inquiry for PBL. Then they should be carried out in a group. I've said this earlier. And the groups, as we know, have to be heterogeneous and not ability-based groups ever. We learn from each other, whether we are stronger or weaker in any discipline. And most importantly, this exploration, this stuff that the children do and they're engaged with for weeks or months must always result in a finding, which could be, showcased in a way of a journal or a paper or a product that the students might create, where you actually present it to the outside world, the world outside your classroom, the parent body, and everybody else who might be actually engaged while the explorations were going on. I have to talk to you about what is the difference between project-based learning and doing a project. And I need to do this especially in our country, India, because we have been assigning projects to students for years together. And we call even scrapbooks and downloading material from the internet and cutting and pasting them very colorfully, sometimes held by parents, we call that a project. That's a very unattractive way of thinking about projects. So that is doing a project, which is very different from project-based learning. Okay? Doing a project, I like to call it, the analogy is the dessert. You do it after the meal. That means after the teaching is done. But project-based learning should be looked at as the main course because it is the pedagogy of teaching. The pedagogy, the main course, you're going through a project. So doing a project and project-based learning are two very different ideas. And there's one more thing that I might want to share with you and take you through, just to make this idea very clear. So what we're saying is doing a project and project-based learning, the analogy I'm trying to give you is the food. Okay. So what is doing a project? It's an add-on to traditional instruction. It is usually done after the teaching is over, when you might ask the children to make a model, make a map, make a chart, make a scrapbook, which we are very familiar with and it's popular. And that's done after the teaching is over. Whereas project-based learning is instruction meaning pedagogy, which is actually woven into the unit as you teach. And therefore, very clearly, doing a project follows the direction of a teacher, whereas project-based learning is usually student-driven and inquiry-driven. Doing a project can be completed alone, it can be done even at home, whereas project-based learning involves collaboration and teamwork, and it needs to be done within the classroom timing with the guidance from the teacher. Doing a project, which is done at the end of the unit, it remains within the school world, very close to the textbooks and whatever is being taught. Whereas project-based learning breaks all those boundaries and it has a real world connect, because children are going out of the school, interviewing people, exploring, finding out for themselves, and that is what makes it so authentic. Doing a project, the end result is a project which is displayed only in the classroom perhaps, but project-based learning, the results and the findings are shared not only with the classroom, but with the public audience. You actually conduct an event where you invite everyone, as many of my other episodes will show you through examples. So what's the conclusion? It has to be interdisciplinary and it has to be done by using the methodology of PBL, which is project-based learning, and which is wisely said in the NEP, teach our students how to think and not what to think, and that can be achieved through this methodology, and more of it will come up in the remaining episodes. If you like what we present through Shikshangan, do like and subscribe to our channel. We'll bring you more in at least 3 to 4 episodes every Sunday.